it was in the story, but based on what they have interpreted. And nobody's used this before? Look, let me give you one person. I'm sorry. Yes?
No, they were reading aloud.
They were reading aloud.
The different parts.
Okay, who has worked towards characterization as an objective? Work toward characterization. All right, what story about working towards characterization?
Black boy.
Okay, so oftentimes it can be an interview. They have to write an interview, question and answer, trying to drive toward an objective. Remember, let me back up for a moment. I got my stop icon. I've got my character going into a bear trap, right? It's not just, oh yeah, come up with like a talk show. No, it's like, look, just prompt them with the best questions. For example, this role play is asking them to discuss their opinion of Jeremiah's songs, his grandfather's cultural heritage that he's trying to pass on to the narrator. It's very focused to reach the objective. Now, why might this engage students a little bit more than just copy and complete? Copy and complete. How's it going to engage them a little bit more? They have to get up in front of the class, is that right? They got to get up in front of the class. They got to somehow act it out. Craig, your thoughts?
It also engages different learning styles. So for the visual learners, they're actually seeing it acted out, and then for those technical, I don't know if it's like kinesthetic, but for those who do learn by doing, like as they're writing out the scripts, they're going to internalize like that.
I got visual learners because, listen, visual learners, maybe they've just been reading words, still don't get it. All of a sudden they see two of their peers get up there and start talking in character. Maybe that's going to have a breakthrough for them, right? Verbal processors, auditory learners, they got to write it out, they got to transfer it, put it in there, they got to get up there, and they got to say it. Who in here has ever not known what it is they were thinking until they had to explain it to somebody else? Don't really know what it is you think until you have to explain it. I'm a verbal processor. I have to talk things through to really get not only the articulation of somebody else, but to myself. All right, once again, I'm thinking of other things on this one. If you had 4 characters, which you do in this one, let me go back to this for a moment. I've got, look, I got Ellie and Macon who have these opposite reactions when the grandfather dies. You have the grandfather himself, and you got the narrator. You got 4 corners. You got grandfather over there, you got Ellie over here, you got Macon over here, you got the narrator. You provoke students. I'm going to read not something from the text, but I'm going to read a thought, a paraphrase from the text. You go to the corner who you think believes this. You go to the corner who you think believes this, all right? Man, any song that was written over a year ago is ancient history. Who would think that? So you got kids get up. Which character is it? They're going over there. And why do you think this? All right. 1, let me go back to Heidi's example of this. Why did you see students just a little bit more engaged when you used 4 corners, Heidi?
Because it had included the bodily movement, they had to do the verbal confirmation, they had to listen.
They got to listen, they got to accountability. Everybody gets up and goes to the same corner. Great. Now I pick up an equity stick and I call on somebody, they say, tell me why you think this character would agree with what I just said. Listen, any kind of change oftentimes in movement can get a little bit more engaging, but be sure that it's matching up with your objective. Let's go to this next one. Why get them up to go over to, why get them up and walk 8 spaces just to reread a text? With this one. Why get them up, walk 8 feet, sit down and have to reread something? Why do that? Yes?
Well, 2 things. One is strategically like getting them up, just like that little bit of movement, even though those 8 steps is going to help release some of that excess energy. And then 2, it makes them, it positions them in a different part of the classroom, so they almost think as it's a new environment. It's like, even if I were to sit on the other side of this classroom, it's like entirely different. And then strategically getting them to reread portions without them necessarily realizing that they're rereading.
Yes, all the above, all the above. They're still doing it with partners, correct? This assignment was still in partners. And to reread because these little questions help you get to the big questions. But she, correct me if I'm wrong, she cut out the strip, put it down there, they had to reread and move around the station, is that correct? Is that how she laid this one out, yes? Look, I've seen the slightest change. I saw a great high school calculus teacher, this is an advanced placement calculus teacher, amazing results, and she had students, instead of just coming in and doing 5 practice problems, she had them do a little around the world. She gave them like this index card, and it had like these different country icons. Probably took her like 10 minutes to Photoshop them in there. She gave each one there. You go around to the different places to do 2 word problems, come and I stamp your passport. I saw 17-year-olds get so fired up about a little stamp that I was shocked. And I was like, you know, to be honest with you, I was like, too much work. High school students think it's big. I was shocked. It was just a little change, like Craig was saying, and a little bit of movement, a little bit more motivation to make it through, as opposed to, all right, here are your 10 problem sets. Go through them, raise your hand, I'll be around to help. Anything you see. But again, she didn't change up what she wanted them to do. She just gave a little bit more engagement. Now this last part here, just to make sure. Why put it on, this is the highest part of the scaffold by themselves. Why have them do this independently with the least amount of support at the end? Why do this part independently with the least amount of support at the end? What's it coming up for?
Maybe the other activities build their confidence in understanding the text so that by the time that they go on their own, they feel like they genuinely produce the answers themselves.
I'm hoping, yeah, absolutely. Why else, huh?
Also because for me, what's worked in my classroom when I'm teaching is that it's closer to the assessment time, and it's, you know, it kind of prepares them for the assessment. And also, they like working independently sometimes, but even after they're done with their group work, they kind of get tired of each other a little bit. And then that's what I've noticed, like they silently do it on their own. They feel like they can do it. So you prepare them for it.
Yeah, you build their confidence, working in pairs, feel like they can do it, but also like it's close to the assessment time. Has anyone done a discussion or done some group work and then gone right to the individual assessment? Bam! Several students, just nothing transferring, yes? So look, man, get one more point here to give yourself a chance to walk around the room, correct misunderstandings before it's time to produce on the exit ticket. Questions about these choices? Anybody seeing something they would like to try already? Nothing? A few people yet. All right, let's go to our discussion. Teacher number 2, planning for effective implementation. Okay, I had a reservation about showing this because, well, first of all, has anyone here felt you've seen a lot of videos of teachers in their first year, their second year, third year, and you haven't seen much video of somebody here at Institute, like in their 5th day? Has anyone said, show me somebody in their 6th day of instruction? Anyone ever felt like this? Show me somebody, because nobody's ever felt like this. You just want to fast forward. Okay, so I'm going to show you.
It was really excellent.
It was outstanding. What were they doing?
What was it, math? I don't know,
Math,
it was
yeah, like
really
algebra
into
was
it.
Okay. Anybody want to see? I love this. Anybody want to see somebody from last year, an ELA teacher in their 6th day of instruction, trying to get a discussion for the first time? Whether you want to or not, I'm going to show it to you, okay? And I'm trying to preface it with, like, look, well, you know what? That's easy. Because I've seen a lot of videos, like, they make it seem easy. No, they were like, oh my God, are those actors or kids? Has anyone ever felt? Okay, how does that teacher get them there? Okay, so listen, you're going to see a little bit of struggling here. And the teacher's going to break it down for you how they're trying to get that discussion. But first, we are back on my correct sequence. Can you find teacher number 2? Folder teacher number 2. I believe we're going to be looking for, let me see, let's go, yes, one. Find this, student-centered discussion guidelines. Once again, it is correctly labeled. Teacher number 2. Can you give me a thumbs up when you find this one? Accurately. Got 1, 2. Looking for at least 95. Good, almost there. Okay, and we're looking for sentence starters, printable, PDF. Another thumbs up that this was in the folder. What's this? Yes. Success. Technology works. Okay, we'll go back to this one. Okay, first, it's not just discussion for discussion. Say, oh, I need more discussion in my room. No, hold on. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, all right? But I want to get my students to be able to be effective communicators. And this teacher number 2 is not seeing her students engage with each other when it's time to discuss. Anybody else seen this? Turn to a partner and talk. Nothing. Excellent. And she wants to adjust her methods to have classroom discussion. Her students have surface level understanding. Who else in here has seen surface level understanding? It was time for dropping bombs like theme, foreshadowing, characterization, symbolism. That was in there? Okay. But I feel like that is an English major sometimes, not often. She's going to incorporate more student discussion in her class. But I'm going to back up for a moment. First, you got to make the right choice. Then you got to plan for effective implementation. So setting your students up for success. All right, let me see here. I'm dying to know, what have discussions looked like so far in your classroom? I heard a great one. Stephanie went into detail about forming opinions. They used text. Some people jumped on your side. Some people disagreed with you. What else did they look like?
I finally got the kids to engage in a debate.
Yes.
By what I did was I kind of scaffolded, like you said, I said make a T-chart, put your evidence from one story on one side and from the other on the other, and then I want you either as a group or elect someone from your group to represent you, and I want you to argue why this text is more effective. And I made it a competition who could argue the best.
Let me interrupt for one moment, and I'll have you continue. This is what I got setting up for success. They're writing down their stuff before it's time for them to speak. Number 1, they have to form an opinion, right? And then they have to use that evidence that they have written down. That's great. What else did you do to set them up for success?
before that, obviously, we talked a lot about it, so I feel in, letting them either work in a group or independently, like, for the argument part, I feel like it really helped, with them, like, being able to, like, articulate.
All right, who else has some tips? John, you had your hand up, and then Brianna?
Yeah, there's sorting activity today where they had to determine the difference between facts and opinions that would ultimately be used in a piece of their own writing. And some of them were working together, but some of them weren't. And I told them in the beginning that the more they debated with each other and sort of worked through disagreements about the facts and opinions, the better it was. And finally, when one of the groups got a scholar dollar for it, like the overall conversation in the class went up a great amount, and they started like disagreeing with each other about why one was a fact or why one was an opinion.
Excellent, excellent. Distinguishing, evaluating between fact and opinion. Who wants more discussion in their class? Who does want more discussion? Let me back up one other. Anyone have a class in college where a large part of your grade was dependent on your own participation, ability to talk? I know that. Did anyone get to college? Listen, you may not be in this case, but anyone get to college and all this, you were in a smaller class maybe for the first time? Actually, it wasn't until graduate school, because I went to a large state school and nobody ever asked my opinion in 4 years. When I got to graduate school, I was in a small seminar for something, and I was like, some people really knew how to work it in a seminar. Have you ever seen some amazing people? They could talk their opinion, they spoke with so much confidence, they were able to refer to this, and I was like, oh, I was taking notes, and I was like, don't call on me until next semester, we're gonna figure out how to do this. That was my case, and the reason I bring that up is like preparing our students. One of the biggest things we want in ELA is effective communicators, regardless of their majors, not just liberal arts majors. It's oftentimes in the workplace that the decisions that are made is who can effectively communicate in small groups. Can you turn my lights off for me, please? All right, here's one thing I also want to emphasize. Has anyone felt discussions have been like, is Dead Poet Society, anybody seen it, Dead Poet Society?
Yeah.
Okay, it's transgenerations, thank God. All right. You got a sage on the stage, and it's ping pong. I ask a question, kid goes back to me, ask another question, ping pong like this. Has anyone ever seen this? Ping pong goes to me, goes to me. Anyone ever seen this? Yes? As opposed to what? Volleyball? You know what volleyball would be? What would volleyball be in a discussion? I throw the ball into the group, and what happens?
Pass the ball around.
They go to each other. Go to each other. You understand what I'm saying? Like a really good seminar is good student to student, right? I disagree. I agree. I want to build on what she said. I value your opinion, but I disagree. Who has seen that in their class? Kids, a kid? What has helped, Brianna? What has helped to get that? Because I want more of that.
Well, when I put an emphasis on like cultural relevance, like there was a fact and opinion thing, rather than having them do it in the text that they've been reading, I give them all like articles about influential like people of color, like Dr. Martin 3 Jr., Susan Chavez, and I had them search for facts and opinions, and then I thought I was going to have to lead a discussion, but then they started talking with each other like,
Awesome.
oh, Dr. Martin Jr. was the best person ever in history, and oh, that's an opinion. Are you sure? Because look at all the stuff he did, maybe it's a fact. And, like, they just were having these really awesome conversations about things that they were really interested in, and then it snowballs into like, this is like 3 days later, and they're still talking about.
I got relevancy of the material, right? And I clearly said
Like stuff that they're interested in.
Absolutely. Does anyone else find themselves in their classroom a little bit reluctant to release control? Like, raise your hand when you say that. Oh, stop. Raise your hand, raise your hand, raise your hand. And instead of, you know what, I can actually step back for a moment and not lose control, but I can let students talk.
Something I'm working on.
Yes, me too.
I'm super working on is the fact that knowing when they should raise their hand and also like when I should just let them discuss, because the conversation's going well and it's exactly where I want it to go. But afterwards when I'm like, okay, let's wrap it up.
Yep.
It's the transition with that is sometimes difficult.
That's the
I'm still
key.
working on that.
And your students want to know when is it appropriate and when it's not.
Yeah.
So you know what?
Yeah.
You say it's cool now, but then 10 minutes later you just gave me a markdown because I didn't raise my hand. Say, listen. So setting them up for effective discussions. All right, first let's go to this handout. The first one, Teacher 2, Student-Centered Discussion Guidelines. Can you look? I think this is on the first page. Can you give me a thumbs up? This is the first page. There's several pages in this one. Is it on the first page? Can you read through, first of all, just the first page about steps to take? Just the first page. They are elaborated more. These should be the captions on what it's going to the initial steps to take. And we'll talk about how you set them up for success. Then we're going to watch clips of a 2012 Corps member in the Delta trying to get her middle school students to take control of the discussion.